This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
Live tonight from Joliet, Illinois, it is the Chicagoland Speedway that plays host to the 10th race of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series as Sim Racing's top oval world championship rolls on tonight, closer and closer to the end of the regular season as we welcome you into the Race Spot TV booth on the iRacing Esports Network. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, and Randy Cheneth on the call tonight. As always, Tim, back on the oval side of things tonight. 10th time all-time we'll see the Chicagoland Speedway in action with the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. And it comes up as the 10th race of this year off the road course, Sonoma, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Sonoma in our rearview mirrors the wild card race per se, leading into what will be the playoffs in a few weeks' time. But now we get back to ovals. These drivers are more comfortable with these left-hand turns, and we're getting ready to see a great race here this evening. Chicagoland always provides some great racing. It's provided some new faces in victory lane, guys like Taylor Hirsch, Zach Novak won here last year, and then you have familiar faces like Ray Alfala, who's won here 3 times. So we'll see who comes out on top here this evening with a win at Chicagoland.
I'll absolutely agree with you on that one. To the point, Randy, I mean, Chicagoland has always been one of my favorite 1.5 mile intermediate tracks. Just a little bit of the quirks that give it a unique feel compared to some of the other ones, say a Kentucky Speedway that we'll see in just 2 weeks' time. But of course, new time all throughout the season with this new rules package. Will be interesting to see if it has changed at all from how it driven years past.
I mean, we've seen so many of these racetracks race differently than we have before that anything I think could potentially happen here. We could see some pack racing. We could see things really single file out, but you're right. Chicagoland, an absolutely tremendous racetrack, and some of the best races in NASCAR history has happened here. And like you said, it's very unique. Probably the clear difference, you look at the track map, that back straightaway curves slightly all the way around. You're really never not turning the wheel here at Chicagoland. Everywhere else you get a little bit of a break to hold it straight. Here you're pretty much turning slightly left all the way through the tri-oval, through the corners of course, and down the back straight as well.
We look forward to walking you through 134 laps of action tonight. We'll also update the points and more in just a moment. Before we do so, though, let's take a look back to 2 weeks ago from the Golden State, home of the second best team in the NBA, behind my NBA champion Toronto Raptors. It's this week's iRacing Race Recap. Let's look back at round number 9 from the virtual Sonoma Raceway. The road to $100,000 tears through wine country. We're tonight with the virtual Sonoma Raceway. We say good evening, Sim Racing fans, and welcome to round 9. Bobby Zelensky looking to keep his streak of perfect races alive. He's looking for his 3rd win at Sonoma as we go green for 2019 round 9 from Sonoma. And it is a good jump for your pole sitter. They're going to go up the hill for the first time through 1 and 2. Ray Alfala with some issues. He also looped it around in that brand new Ford Mustang.
You can see the back bumper of that race car. You can see a little damage to the front, but the back bumper a little caved in on both sides of that number 21 as he battles with Eric Smith.
A little deep on the brakes, and look at that, Garrett Lowe still able to get up the inside of Zach Novak. So the 6 car struggling, now up into the carousel, the 3 of them all jockeying for position, and the 30 of Reynolds able to get to the inside of the 28 of Garrett Lowe as well. Off the corner, bit of a hip check as they work down the cool down part of the drag strip, and now hard on the brakes. How are these 3 going to work this out? And the 27 is now part of this fight.
And a pull away, and
Big crash!
in the middle of the racetrack.
Ryan Luzo was in the middle of the racetrack in the battle we were watching. They plowed into him. Jake Nichols into it, and also involved was Garrett Lowe.
Blake Reynolds do the S's. Brad Davies gonna work the right-hand side. Can he make this move stick up the inside? No, he can't. So they're gonna single file out. Look for Corey to get a run now, as he had the preferred line. Hard braking zone down into the hairpin once again for the 27. He will pick this spot up.
Bobby Zelensky wins in 2019 at Sonoma, stays the king of the road courses in the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series with a dominating win over Michael Conti. PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. So happy that you're with us for 201 miles of action tonight on RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth upstairs. Our director Hugo Louise is twisted and tweaking at aisles, bringing us to you this evening, and we are excited for this race. 5 more to go until we reach the playoff cut, and as we kind of alluded to, Tim, before we stepped aside there, took a look back on all of the road course action from 2 weeks ago. That point picture continues to evolve. Here's what it looks like coming into tonight. Again, left-hand side of your screen, the top 8, that's the playoff cutoff. That's story number 1. But also on the right-hand side, that red line, that's the cut just to stay in this series, and there are plenty of stories on both sides.
And after Sonoma, top to bottom, Evan, it changed. You have Ryan Luza having a horrible night at Sonoma. He falls from having a very comfortable cushion to only 5 points. Now, if he has another bad night like that in the next 5 races, he falls back to pretty much where the bubble would be. So no lead is safe right now with 5 races to go until that cutoff, and some racetracks in here that could throw a curveball into the plans, not maybe as much as Sonoma. But you look at Ryan Lewis and Keegan Leahy up top, and then you look down at that cutoff line. I think the big glaring number right there is that 21 Wood Brothers car, Ray Alfala, currently 24. 7 points is not a whole lot of points, but still, anything can happen in 5 races.
That's 3 points out of just being in this series next year. One thing, Randy, Ryan Luzat many times this season has had a very healthy margin for the top spot. Again, the real number he has to worry about is plus 58 to the cut line, so it's not that big of a deal, but he has kind of fallen down after a couple of bad weeks. Keegan Leahy kind of coming in as a sneaker here, putting on the heat. Oftentimes, it's not the drivers who start the season the best that go into the playoffs hot. It's those who go on a little bit of a streak towards the end, and as I said, including tonight, 5 more races to get this points picture totally figured out for the race for the championship. The Leahys, the Reynolds, and Lowe's have a real opportunity to kind of leave their mark.
And I think you're right talking about how sometimes people can really get on a hot streak early in the championship. And I think this year, part of what played into that was, of course, the new format of cars, of course, the entire new platform that these guys have to play with all the changes that have come in on these machines. I think Ryan and his entire group, they picked up on it really early, and they were quick. But I think ever since, last handful of races, we've not seen Lou dominate the way he was early in the championship. And in some ways, we've actually seen him struggle to even end races about getting into incidents. So I have a feeling that 53 car's reign of dominance this year is slowly coming to a little bit of an end. And in his situation, if he keeps up a train of bad luck, it does not take much, like you just said, to potentially be at risk of falling outside that top 8. I don't think that's anything Ryan should be worried about at the moment. He's, still well and truly clear being the points leader, but something to maybe think about depending how things look coming out of Chicagoland.
It's the first time these low horsepower and high downforce cars are going to take on Chicagoland. If you don't think the 2019 package has made a difference, every race this season, aside from Sonoma, so all the ovals, the margin of victory has been less than 1 second. We'll see if that continues tonight as the qualifying and practice sessions have drawn to a close. So let's go trackside, take a look at tonight's Race Spot TV starting grid. Pole position for this one, going to go to the 18 machine. It is Bobby Zelensky who will bring us to the green flag tonight, with Benjamin Nelson on the outside of the front row starting in second. Back on row 2, Matt Busa, Keegan Leahy get a tag team for third and fourth position, and Michael Conti going to round through your top 5.
Going to be the 47 of Nick Ottinger, who starts in 6th, with Corey Vincent in 7th, starting inside of the 99 of Logan Clampett in 8th. Garrett Lowe will start 9th, and Ryan Lou's a championship points leader. He'll round out your top 10.
Jarl Tien just behind there, starting in the number 11 spot with Christian Challoner in 12th. Chris Overland's looking for his luck to turn around. He'll have to do it from that oh-so-lucky number 13 starting spot. Nathan Lyon is with him at 14th. Behind them, the double 7 of Ashton Crowder as the field rolls.
And Nicholas Shelton will line up alongside the 77 in the 16th spot. Brian Schoenberg in 17th. Jake Nichols, who's had a fantastic season, in 18th. Ray Alfala in 19th, and Adam Benefiel in 20th.
21st is going to be Cody Bias. Through the top 30, it's Blake Reynolds, Kane Cook, Phil Diaz, and Michael Guerrilla. Jimmy Mullis is 26th. Dylan Duvall's 27th. Brad Davies 28th. And back on row 15, it's Casey Kerwin and Taylor Hurst.
And then rounding out the tail of your field, Casey Tucker, Brandon Cattell, Malik Ray, Logan Kress, Zach Novak, Eric Smith, Michael Guest, Ryan Lowe, and Timmy Hill.
The tail of the tape, 134 laps, 201 miles around this 1.5-mile intermediate racetrack, banking at 18 degrees in the corners, 11 on the front straightaway. But we would be remiss to not mention that this is the first time in series history that green-white checkers are in effect. Starting this week, doesn't necessarily mean we will see our first ever tonight, but a late race yellow inside of 4 laps to go means that these races are no longer over with. Happy that you're with us, though, tonight from Chicagoland Speedway as the pace car gets set to dive down to the safety of the pit lane, and the field is in the hands of the number 18 Toyota of Bobby Zelensky as we say, let's go racing from Chicago. Green flag in the air for round 10.
And Zelensky gets a great start on this field going down into corner number 1 here. And Zelensky led at Sonoma, going to pick it up as he did at Chicagoland Speedway. And in behind, you see some guys trying to find some clean air and some positions. There's the number 33 of Ben Nelson. Great qualifying effort as he gives a little shock to that Williams Esports number 5 down the back.
He went way up high against the wall, trying to arc it down a little bit. He's tucked in line behind the 5 of Matt Busa. Busa, a little bit of speed scrubbed off that time at the exit of 4. So first lap lead looks like it'll go to the 18. It does. No, Busa topside by 7 1/1000ths. Actually led the opening lap of this race. We'll see if he's going to be able to complete the pass on Zelensky. We're already 3 wide, though, just behind them. The 62 car up top. It's Keegan Leahy making some noise.
Well, if you still don't think this package has changed things, then my lord, this is some of the greatest racing I've ever seen. Double 9 of Logan Clampett in a hairy situation. And oh, by the way, Malik Ray did not make the start. It's a lap car at the head of the field. That's going to be a curveball for everybody here in this opening stint.
He's the only one that didn't make it to the grid. 38 of the 39 did so. That's Zidani, who just lost his lap as the 5 car. Your race leader was able to get in front of him at a 2. It looks like Bobby Zelensky as well. And to the inside goes Mike Conti. So we'll go 3 wide, 3 rows deep. Only 3 laps into this race from Chicagoland. It's fantastic racing to watch, Tim. It's white knuckle, but the risks are so high, especially this early on.
And you look at a guy like Malik Ray, he's in that middle. He's trying to get into that top 20 cutoff bubble. Up the racetrack goes one more as they continue to go side by side.
Clamp it. The 99 car in. He got turned around. Almost was able to hang on to it, but he's in front of the field, and he took some others with him up on that 3rd line.
Handful of cars in it. Nathan Lyon's involved, the 99. I think the 24 may have gotten tagged up in this incident as well. We have a number of cars. I don't think we have too many of our championship contenders that are even around there. Closest would have been Ray Alfala, but I believe he's through it comfortably. But half dozen or so cars here in this opening run. First 5 laps, and we got ourselves a pretty big pileup through 1 and 2.
It looked like it was gonna start with that car up in the wall on the outside. Benjamin Nelson, the Team Dillon Esports entry, he hung on to it, and I think that kind of spooked the 4 car. That's why Nathan Lyon came down a little bit. Here's the onboard shot. You see the car into the wall in front. It's almost like he's going low to avoid what he thinks is a wreck coming, and maybe the Nani clamp it lifted a little bit. He got him in the left rear quarter panel. There's no coming back from that, and if there is any silver lining, Tim, it was only the top 2 lanes, so it's a half a dozen cars involved. That's a lot for a lap 4 incident, but considering that we had at one point 9 cars, 3 wide, 3 rows apiece, relatively minor in what it could have been, but an early yellow flag in this race, and your race leaders headed down to the pit lane already.
Very early, they'll head down pit road and get service to their race cars. But as you said, Nathan Lyon didn't really have a whole lot of room to adjust there. Didn't really have a whole lot of field of view to see what was ahead of him as those cars on the outside tried to avoid and came down on the inside. And we should mention the Mode Motorsports drivers. I know one got a little bit of a skirmish in there, sporting some new paint schemes here for Kyle Long, being here at Chicagoland Speedway. As everybody comes down on pit road. Look at that lonely racetrack up there, except for Dylan Duval. Duval stays out in the racetrack, and keep in mind, he's one of those on the top 20 bubble trying to fight his way back into this series and try to get a license for 2020.
Tends to be one of the guys that'll stay off more times than not. A race to the pit lane exit, and it looked like first driver off indeed, Keegan Leahy, the 62 car. Gonna rock it around as he came with a little bit ahead of steam from the number 4 pit stall. A lot of the drivers were well and into the box ahead of him. He decided 2 tires was the name of the game, Randy, and it'll give the G2 entry a lot of track position.
It's going to give him a lot of track position, but we're going to have to wait and see how this is really going to affect that race car and if it's going to have pace. Will that GT car, also sporting a new number font, I believe, on the side of that 62 car, that I think is a big improvement. So a couple interesting calls out at the front of the field. 42 with Dylan Duval. If you think back a couple years ago when he won his race in Indianapolis, it came off of a call like this, but that was with about 5 laps to go in that race rather than 5 laps into the race. So going to be interesting to see for these 2 on the front row. No tires, and well, not even come down pit road in 2 tires. Everyone else on foreign fuel.
Actually surprised we don't see this strategy more often when we have these very early yellows. Somebody stay out, and you know, even if you consider that a little bit of a radical idea for the 42, Leahy's got 2 tires in his own right for the 62 machine, so I mean, that's not all that bad. They only ran 3 laps, Tim. We know the tires are important, no doubt, but I guess if you're a Dylan Duval, started 27th position in this race, and you're looking to make up some track position quick, that's the way to do it. As long as you don't lose 26 spots, not all that bad maybe, but the question is, and the concern probably, the swarm of cars that'll come up on him if the tires, as minuscule as the difference is, are that important, similar to what we saw Malik Ray have to go through for that short period when he was kind of getting swallowed up by the lead pack.
If you're going to do it, this is the opportunity to do it, Evan. You got a handful of laps into this race, and you can try something for later on, I guess. But if you're the only one out there, it's going to be a very quick lesson, I guess, when we throw this green flag out. But the 42 with Dylan Duval, as we mentioned, trying to fight for that bubble position, and we'll see what he can do here on this exchange. And as you mentioned, started in position number 27, so a 26-spot gain all the way up to number 1 right now. And if we do have a little bit of attrition, then he'll be able to come down pit road with the rest of the field and maybe gain a few positions. I talked to some drivers earlier, and obviously with this package, the clean air is king on this one, so maybe Dylan Duval trying to get some clean air here and see what his tires can do. 5 laps old compared to the rest as the field is doubled up, and lights atop the pace car have been extinguished.
An early restart in this one. Control car is going to be the 42 with Dylan Duval. He's going to stick through with this strategy. No tires for the number 1 position. Matt Busa in 3rd position inside of row 2 was your race leader. He came in, and he will be the first on 4. from that number 3 spot. Of course, Leahy outside of the front row in second with the 2. Good news is, at least at this moment, nobody has had to go all the way behind the wall and right on cue. Timmy Hill, who was involved in that, is going to have to head to the garage. So Hill's night is done. Tough breaks for the likes of Nathan Lyon and Brandon Cattell. They're off for the lead lap. Pretty substantial damage on Logan Clampett's 99. He's also on pit road for some extended repairs, and looks like he might just miss the restart in this one as the field is set to get at it back in turns 3 and 4. So restart procedure changes from the drop of the initial green flag to the restarts. Of course, you saw everybody come to the green together when we dropped the green flag some 8 laps ago. Restart procedure on restarts, as always, when the pace car goes down, it's the 42's decision on when he wants to go. It is going to be an early jump for Dylan Duval. Green flag back in the air with 8 laps down.
And it's a great jump coming in from the 42 as they roll off through the tri-oval, side by side, up and down the field behind. But how long can these guys on the old tires make it work? Keegan Leahy already starting to fall back.
And Leahy not the best jump that he would have liked for the 62 machine. He's kind of all on his own on the outside as they time up on the inside. And look at the big push for the 5 car. Matt Busa with the assist to the 8 of Michael Conti gets shoved up the middle line. They're doing the same thing on the bottom. Zelensky getting shoved by Garrett Lowe. Everybody trying to get around Duval fast. Do they go 3 wide? The 18's thinking about it, almost now 4 wide as Lusa makes the middle lane now in turn 1.
Zelensky tried to shove that nose to the inside of Dylan Duval, but Duval stands his ground on that inside line. 3 wide, Lusa in the middle, Conti on the outside. Dylan Duval, that Simcraft Ford, still holding his own on the inside. Keegan Leahy right behind. Bobby Zelensky is there as well, but up in front, Matt Busa having the opportunity to get out and lead some laps here. Lusa in that inside line looks like he's going to go to second here.
Second time he's been the best off for the restart. Neither of them in which he was the control car for. Big checkup as that second line has to get out of the throttle. They all brake accordingly, and it'll give a break to the 8 of Michael Conti, who gets in line. Now up front, it's Lusa with a big drive down the backstretch. He'll get on the very bottom of the 5 of Busa, and he's going to clear him into the corner. So making that car hook up on the inside for the first time this evening, it's Lusa from P10 to the race lead. The 5's not going to give it away, though. He'll challenge back on the outside to 1.
See if he can make this run and make this work through the middle of the racetrack. Right now, it seems like the 5 and the 53, the 2 quickest cars on fresh rubber as they come off turn 2, 3 abreast for third. The 28, the 42, and the 62 all line astern as the 5 of Matt Busa is going to take that race lead and Conti wants to try to follow that double 5 through.
An impressive comeback for the 5. It really looked like Lusa had it for the taking last time at a turn 4, but that 5 wasn't willing to give it up, and you can just see how crazy the fight is for the race lead and behind them as the draft allows these cars to stay on top of each other. The field passes a damaged 99 to Clampett. As the 53 tucks up in line, you're looking off at the back end of that 53 Lusa as a challenge coming bottom for Garrett Lowe. He's also picked up some spots, started 9th and now up to 3rd as he slides in front of the 8 car.
Garrett Lowe having a great season so far, right now looking to pick up another top 5 finish, and has that battle for the lead on his front bumper. Lusa to the inside, Matt Busa on the outside, and Garrett Lowe going to try to make it happen here to the inside and pick up 1 more spot. Garrett Lowe looking pretty good here, albeit it is early here at Chicagoland with 14 laps in the books this time.
And we'll see if we do get an opportunity for 20, 30, 40 lap green flag runs. If the guys really pushing it this early are going to be able to make it a sustainable option. First time we are seeing some separation. Everybody using that apron on the front straightaway to help themselves out, with the exception of the 5. We ride on board with Corey Vincent in the number 27. He's exactly where he started. P7 wants a spot. He'll drive up on the inside of Zelensky. There's a 2x2 exchange in front of him for 3rd with Busa and Leahy as this group now travels into 3 and 4.
Yeah, that group there with Conti and Corey Vincent and Bobby Zelensky have toned it down a little bit. They spent about 3 laps, 3 abreast there. You see just about the entire field drop down to the apron. Now it's the 8 and the 5 car who really the only 2 that aren't using it. So maybe thinking it might be better for the tires are those 2. The 28 of Garrett Lowe, he's gotten clear out there in second, well ahead of the 62 of Keegan Leahy, and he's starting to chase down that 53 flip side car of Ryan Lusa.
Ryan Luce has established himself as your race leader here after exchanging blows with Busa for some time. Busa now going to lose yet another spot as the 27 Corey Vincent's the one on a tear. He'll move up into the number 4 spot, but it is Luce out in front, trailed by Lowe. And about a half a second of space back to Leahy in third. Behind them, still a lot of 2 wide. But it looks like give these cars 10 laps or so, and they can, Tim, get a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, they can get a little bit of breathing room as we go on throughout this run. There's the 21 taking a little peek to the inside. Ray Alfala battling to try to get back up here in the top 10 and try to make something happen. Chalner on the outside. Christian's been quietly going about his season this year, Evan, and right now trying to get another top 10 finish and get himself a little bit closer to playoff contention and a little bit further away from that top 20 cutoff as he battles here with Ray Alfala. Alfala trying to enter the top 10.
Oh, we talked about the stakes on hand for the driver of the 21 machine. Came into tonight 24th in the standings. Couple of miles away from a playoff hope. But it's almost like that the concern for that ride spin for the Mustang and Wood Brothers team, Randy, has very quickly in the last couple of weeks transitioned from, come from behind and get into the playoffs to just stay into this series. Ray Alfala has obviously not been a fan of this 2019 package, just hasn't looked the same.
He's really the only one, too, of the sort of championship contenders from the recent years that really hasn't adapted well to the new package. He seems to, part of that, I will say, there's been a couple races where he's gotten about to where he needs to be to put in a good result at the end of the race, but luck just hasn't gone his way. But a lot of it, the 21 car just hasn't shown the pace that we've seen come out of Ray Alfala in the past. That said, he's having a good run tonight, started 19th, already up 8 spots into 11th. So maybe, just maybe, Ray Alfala can start a bit of a recovery and at least keep that top 20 so he doesn't have to run through the Pro Series a little bit later on in the year in 2019. I will say I'm loving the strategy call from the 42 of Dylan Duvall. He's dropped a handful of spots, currently still running in 8th, but he's not falling like a stone, not coming down and getting new tires. He started this race 27th, would have been about there when he restarted. Now he has himself a nice, strong top 10 running order spot as they work through, and he follows behind the 8 of Michael Conti.
47 at Gottinger wants to challenge him as well. The JTG Darty racing entry, taking a couple of peeks to the inside, but not quite yet pouncing on it. But for Dylan Duvall, completely agree, all things considered, maintaining a top 10 spot exactly. I think what that staying out strategy was banking on. Now he's trying to stay close to the back of the gate of Conti, so that draft keeps him away, per se, from the cars behind him. Single file, though, for the most of the top 10, except the fight for third. Here we go. Up the inside, the 62 of Keegan Leahy. It's the fight for second, actually. The fight for third behind them involved the 27 Vincent. So 3-way battle for P2. Leahy trying to pass to the inside. Slides up off of 4. He's got him. And as he tries to go back to the inside, the 62 shuts the door. Nice move for a race high, now second for Leahy.
And a great run by the 2 Renegades drivers here this evening, Evan. You see Corey Vincent there right behind his teammate Garrett Lowe. Garrett Lowe has had a great rookie season so far. He's in playoff contention. Corey Vincent, exact opposite, 26th in the point standings here coming into this evening. He'll move to the inside of his teammate and try to take one more spot away. But it's been a tale of 2 seasons for these 2 Renegades drivers. One a rookie, one an established veteran in this series, and now we see them battling here at Chicagoland 23 laps into this.
Looked like the 27 wanted to go to the inside, but again, we'll just hold off for the moment. And certainly when your teammates, you don't want to force the issue, especially 24 laps into a 134-lap contest. So we'll keep an eye to see if Vincent does want to push the issue here. That's how close they get down into 3 as you looked off of the bumper. Your third-place runner, Garrett Lowe, and he mix it up now. Instead of looking at the bottom, he goes high. Here's the slice down to the inside. Nice move by Corey Vincent, well executed, and that should do it. Got him to turn 1.
It's a pretty aggressive move to throw on your teammate in the first 30 laps here, but I think the 27 car has pace. Both the Renegades cars look pacey at the moment. Garrett maybe a little bit quicker in the early phases of the run, but Corey maybe running a slightly different package on that car, able to keep the pace a little bit longer into the run. Now he's going to try to chase down that 62 of Keegan Leahy, who's up into second as the 18 of Bobby Zielinski, last week's winner. He's sizing up the 28 of Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe now next driver under attack as that 18 machine. Bobby Zelensky really didn't make a lot of noise off at the start of this one, despite starting on pole position. Just missed out on a drag race to lead lap number 1 and had only trickled down since then. So good to see that the Joe Gibbs Toyota is coming into its own now after 15, 16 or so laps since the last restart. He made that one look pretty easy on the outside as he dives back down, though, by the time he gets into the corner, and already just like that gets a decent bit of separation. He's back to P4.
And we're starting to see these drivers come and go in this run. We're at the point where we're getting some green flag laps in. We're getting some drivers working through, and some of those drivers at the front getting that clean air, picking up those passes, and then you see a battle like this as Nick Ottinger goes to the inside of Dylan Duval. Duval fighting back on the outside, trying to keep that position. Nick Ottinger continuing to work the inside. Ottinger likes his racetrack, was very optimistic on social media here this week, and up the racetrack he goes a little bit. Dylan Duval still on the outside. He got close at a corner number 4, but Ottinger going to try to drive that thing and pick up one more.
He'll hug the grass that time all the way down onto the flat part of the racetrack. That's a transition of 11 degrees of banking down to none. Does he go for the slide up at a 2? Yes, he does, and well executed. So Ottinger completes the pass on Duval. They'll exchange 8th and 9th position. And I think Duval probably could have crossed to back up, trying to force the issue if he really wanted to. Opts not to, though. 47 of Ottinger, the better car, and he will take that number 8 spot. Next driver in line would be the 77 of Ashton Crowder, who kind of has to fly the torch, per se, for that team. The Burton Kligerman Esports guys with clamp it out very early in this one. The NASCAR America Toyota for Crowder last in the top 10, and he closes in on the Simcraft Ford of Duval.
Yeah, it's a good run thus far from the 77 of Ashton Crowder. We've seen him have some good nights and get up the field early. He hasn't quite been able to finish out some of these races, I think, the way he would typically like. But the 77 car of Ashton Crowder been definitely one of the quicker rookies that have come in this year. Jake Nichols, another one that's been impressive, and he's got Mr. 3-time following him in the 21 car as they size up that 42 with Dylan Duval, who on this no tire call at that first yellow we saw about 25 laps ago now, he's at risk of falling outside of the top 10. I still like the call from him, though.
Battle a little bit further up for P6, and it isn't going to be a fight for that long. The 8 car of Michael Conti, you see the end of the pass there, dove low on the 5 of Busa, cleared him off of 4, takes his line away, and again, you're always daring somebody to cross me over again and see how bad you really want it. And Michael Conti in the filter time Chevy Camaro with a well-executed move. So they go 6 and 7 for Conti Busa, respectively.
And when you go back and forth like that, it's how hard do you abuse the tires? How hard do you push your race car at this point? And right now, Michael Conti is pushing away from Matt Busa. Busa might be falling back here on this run as you see Ryan Luza and Keegan Leahy going for the spot.
And a battle for the race lead, there it is, as Luz on the inside line is going to lose it to the 62. Keegan Leahy takes it as he dove low on the entrance to turn 1. He kind of waited a little bit, then dove when they both came up and off. And I think Luza also scraped the wall a tad bit, so maybe it was easier because of that than it should have been. But Keegan Leahy, again, quick, decisive moves, Randy, seem to be the key. You're not peeking a nose out to the inside. You're not kind of, giving that guy in front of you an idea of when you're going to make the move. You stay in line, you dive down when you're ready to make it, and when you're quick and concise like that, it's been working. The last 4 or 5 passes we've seen top 10, very similar to that one, and Keegan Leahy's now your race leader, lap 33.
Yeah, and those are the sort of moves you have to be able to make. And, when you get an opportunity, especially someone of Ryan's talent, you have to be able to pounce and take that lead away. Keegan didn't hesitate, and it's definitely good to see that, especially because you don't want to get checked up behind that 53 car, because look at the duo you still have just lurking there in the background, Corey Vincent and Bobby Zelensky. They're also reeling in this 53 of Ryan Luza, so maybe some damage on that flip side car after visiting the wall a little bit, like you said, Evan, but those two are not letting that 53 car breathe in second spot.
And that's exactly the objective, is to just keep that constant little bit of pressure in the draft to let you get another shot. So we'll see how long Ryan Luza can hang on, or if he'll be the second or third car to not only lose the race lead, but drop a couple of more spots quickly thereafter in rapid succession. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. watching a great battle right now for second position. Keegan Leahy, your race leader. He's going to be about a second ahead of this group not too long from now. As the 27 closes in on the bumper, he'll actually look to make a move to the outside for second.
And the 18 car, Bobby Zalenski there as well, too, waiting to see where he wants to go. Currently going in the middle groove right now as they work at a corner number 2, now to the outside with Corey Vincent. Ryan Luza falling back on that inside, but there's two drivers as the run goes on. Their cars continue to get stronger.
They both got him outside line. Vincent to second, Zalenski up to third, and Ryan Luza in about 5 laps goes from the race lead to 4th position. We'll see if he can put the water wings on and stop the drowner, or if he's going to continue to slide back. 4th position, not all that bad, but this battle, Randy, as I mentioned, allowed Keegan Leahy to stretch out to about a second of an advantage. Biggest gap we've seen between first and second thus far.
You're right, and really that's going to be, I think, a huge win point there for that 62 car. He's going to start opening up enough of a margin that I think he'll be comfortable with, especially because green flag pit stops are going to start creeping into the back of everyone's mind, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that we might see some people opt to come down early within this next 10 or so laps. So expect maybe to see some cars start reeling in and coming down towards pit road. Also want to pay attention to the 28 of Garrett Lowe. Remember how quick he was. If Ryan Luza's starting to fall off a little bit, he's the next in line to catch that 53.
We'll see how this continues through it. It would be Lowe, then Conti, Ottinger, Busa, Duval, and Ashton Crowder, your top 10. In fact, Crowder is fighting for the last spot inside of the top 10. There it is, the 21 car of Ray Alfala, the instigator here, as he looks to the outside. So Crowder's been trying to get around Dylan Duval in the 42, while also dealing with the 21 machine hounded him and making a 4-car battle just for fun. The 37 of Christian Chandler is in this mix as well. Do they go 3 wide? Alfala was so tight that time, had to get out of the throttle as Crowder barely cleared the 42.
Another 37 of Chalner, Mr. Opportunity on the outside. Going to pick up 1 spot and now go to work on Dylan Duval. Duval kind of opened that door on the outside with that little bit of a run at a corner number 2 that time and put Chalner there. And now Ray Alfala has to reset in the spin number 21. Right behind Chalner, right behind Dylan Duval, and right behind the 77 of Crowder is a fan out once again through the corner. Dylan Duval's been going wide here at a corner number 2. The last couple laps been opening the door, and now Chalner going to have to operate on the inside.
See if he is going to make that inside work. There's the dive now down into turn number 3 as Ashton Crowder has gotten a little bit of breathing room here. The 37 corner off. That's the biggest difference I'm seeing with these cars, Randy, now compared to early in the run, is those drivers who are making those passes on the bottom looked very good on corner exit. The last couple of times through, this group here looks like they're really pushing up, struggling to keep that car down low, and it's making it very difficult to get around Dylan Duval, who I think sees what's going on and just wants to ride that top side, the defensive line.
That's going to be one of the big shortcomings with the new tires. You can't, I don't think you have the grip in the front to really get the car to rotate off the corner the same way, and even then it can be difficult to keep the traction on the rear as well. Easy to maybe spin them up and get a little bit loose, and then you have to chase that car. Christian Challenger, though, he's going to hop to the inside of the 42 of Dylan Duval as they roll through 1 and 2. Let's see if he can keep this momentum up as he comes off of turn 2. He's actually done well this time. Has a good run in towards 3 and 4. Might be able to just about get this done, but no, the 42 is going to put him back in the rear view.
And I think that was a smart move there for the 37 to Chandler. Probably could have stuck that car down on the inside, but if he really lost it off of 4, that 21 of Alfala was right there ready to pounce. Probably would have taken away the 11th spot. So Chandler figured, all right, I won't make the move now. I'll back off a tad bit and keep in mind what that driver, only a car length off of my back bumper's planning on doing with me. It is kind of interesting, Tim, as well. We're seeing on the shots right now, a lot of sun down the back straightaway, but the sun keeps peeking in and out of the clouds, and that could be kind of keeping these guys busy on the track temps as it keeps getting a little bit warmer, tad bit colder, some grip, then no grip as these drivers cycle through lap 43.
There are battles all over the speedway right now. Bobby Zalenski just took position number 2 away from the 27 of Corey Vincent, and he's been baiting him the last 2 or 3 laps, 7, to go to the inside, but Bobby hadn't been able to make that run. Now Corey Vincent gets that run down the back straightaway, pokes it to the outside line, nothing doing there into corner number 3, but that Bobby Zalenski pass was working for 3 or 4 laps, just trying to get to the inside, trying to get that run, and just couldn't get there. But there are great battles all over this speedway right now. I caught a couple of moments ago Malik Ray and Brad Davies going side by side. They're about 18th or 19th place. There's Casey Kerwin on your screen, the 14 car. He's been a busy lad the last couple of nights. Caught him on the World of Outlaws last night doing some dirt racing, and now here on the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, and there he is on board. And Evan, me and Randy mentioned it last night. He's got two modes. He's got full send mode, and then he's got that happy-go-lucky smile on his face. This is full send that we're seeing on our screen right now.
He's our featured driver tonight, and that shot of him gives you a great look at the concentration for the Clint Boyer Racing drivers. So no surprise with that affiliation, Randy, that he's doing the double duty with the asphalt and the dirt. Of course, those races Monday nights as well, right here on the iRacing Esports Network, and he wins out in the battle that we would have been looking at. That was for 26th position. Behind him, it's still chaotic. Kane Cook, Phil Diaz, Casey Tucker, all still throwing the punches with one another. But that PEAK Antifreeze sponsored entry is stretched out a little bit as that Mustang gets some breathing room.
Yeah, and he's not only doing the double duty in the series, he's doing the double duty with Clint Boyer Racing in that number 14 PEAK and iRacing sponsored car as well. Pit stops, though, happening. You see the 6 of Zach Novak on pit road, another driver behind him. Didn't quite catch who that was on the cameras, but we got a couple people come down pit road early here making some strategy calls. And, oh, by the way, I think the 53 of Ryan Luza may have been one of those as well. Nope, he's still out there. Take that back.
Luz is still running in that number 4 spot, some 4 seconds off for the race lead, but he hasn't lost any more positions since we last checked in with him. Zelensky not getting away from Cordy Vincent either when it comes to the battle for the number 2 spot, as they run some 3 seconds off the race lead, but Keegan Leahy is comfortably 3 seconds ahead of everybody else. Here's another good group. The Donnie Carr, Malik Gray is in the thick of it all for 16th position. The 66 Jarl Tien leading the outside line. That time down the back looked like they had the better momentum.
Missed a start, was a lap down early in this race, got the free pass back around the field, and now Malik Ray is battling for a top 15 position. He battled with Brad Davies for about 10 laps, and now he's to the inside of the double nickel of Brian Schoenberg trying to pick up that spot, and now he looks to the inside of Jarl Tien. So the 90 of Malik Ray driving for Richmond Raceway Esports and Sunoco Race Fuel right now doing a great job. He's already had to come from the back of the field once. He's doing it here again, and now in 15th place and looking for a little bit more. This was the battle for position number 18 before Randy mentioned some of those drivers decided to come down pit road in front. Speaking of, here comes Malik Ray sliding that race car down onto pit road.
Oh, the 90 car barely made it into pit road, but you can see there's a whole host of cars down to pit road with him as well, as a ton of the midfielders come in for service, and a lot of your race leaders. Keegan Leahy still out in front, the 62 yet to pit. As we sit at lap number 50, would probably be a 2-stop strategy if this thing were to stay green to the end. You pit now, you pit a tad bit closer to lap number 90. That would do it. Do see the 18 of Bobby Zelensky in as he gives up the number 2 spot. That would tell me the 62's got to come in from P1 pretty quick.
Unless he has some sort of hope and dream of maybe making this race on one stop, I think you're right. He needs to be in the next couple laps. Honestly, I think he should have came down already. I think he's probably at risk of losing the race lead at this point, but still no intention for that 62 car of peeling off on towards pit road. He goes for another lap, and I think when he eventually does cycle off of pit road, if he kind of comes down the next couple laps, this is going to be a huge mistake. He's going to lose a lot of time and probably a few positions in the process of doing that. So I think that 62 car needs to get to pit road early unless he's maybe thinking about going on some dark horse strategy. Remember, we ran an extra 5 laps at the start of this race. It'd be crazy to think that put them in some sort of fuel window, but not out of the realm of possibilities.
The 2-stop strategy would mean you'd have to get about 42 laps in every time. As here's a 3-wide exchange down the back and into turn number 3. One of the drivers in the middle of all of that, the number 8, Michael Conti. He was on the inside and with the fresh tires makes pretty quick work of the battle. Still ongoing between Taylor Hurst and actually Phil Diaz, also a lead-lapped car in the number 4 spot. He's also still out there on old tires, and that's why there's such a big speed difference. Your race leader is in, though. Keegan Leahy stayed out about an extra 3-4 laps. We'll see if it hurts him. The G2 Esports car is in from the top spot, and that would hand it off to teammate Jarl Tien. It does. The 66 stays out. He'll assume the number 1 position.
So So Jarl Tien will come by and lead a lap here, go to the top of the scoring pylon, or at least he will next time by. Brian Schoenberg, you saw on your screen, coming down onto pit road on that exchange. It'll move Phil Diaz up to position number 3. And we saw the 24 a little bit earlier. Cody Bias trying to dodge wreck. There's some new Mode Motorsports colors on the side of that 75 as you see it there. There's Taylor Hurst. He's won this race before. A couple of years ago, he went to victory lane here at Chicagoland and still out on the racetrack right now and trying to see what he can do. Currently scored in 17th, 1 lap down, so he's already been down on this exchange, but beautiful looking JDR Graphics race car.
Yeah, the running order going to be a little bit shuffled up now as most of the service has been completed, aside from, I think, Tien, Diaz, and maybe Shelton as well in the number 79 machine. But other than that, most everybody has come down to the pit lane. That's why you're seeing so many great fights. How about 4 wide there with the inside, the 46 car. Jimmy Mullis rockets on through across a couple of slower race cars with a tad bit older tires. Chris Overland, one of them, who's a lap down in 21st. Overland said this is arguably one of his more favorite racetracks and was looking to turn his season around tonight as well. We'll see what the 16 machine can get going here as we're almost done with our first green flag pit cycle of the night.
Yeah, this is always a stressful part of the race is when you have this crazy pit cycle. Oh, we got a car on the wall. It was the 79 and Nicholas Shelton, who's yet to come down pit road, currently leads this race, and he scrapes the wall coming off of turn 2. Maybe some big damage on that 79 car, not what you want to happen when you're thinking of running sort of an alternate strategy. So he's going to stay out, as will the 66 of Jarl Tien will start rolling off of pit road. I think when everything cycles through, the 53 of Ryan Luza will cycle into the race lead, but it's not going to be by much. Corey Vincent, Keegan Leahy, and Bobby Zielinski, they are lined up behind him. 4 cars all line astern that'll essentially be fighting for the lead in just a few laps.
And that's the difference, is it was a 3-second advantage for the 62 Leahy. He was pretty clear. Now he's going to fight to get that spot back as he tries to get on the inside of Luza. Luza's going to hold the outside line and will race down the back straightaway. Again, at the moment, the fight is for third, but it'll become the battle for the race lead. Leahy, Luza, the 27 of Vincent, and the 62 car better on the inside.
So managing a lead and managing a gap through all this pit strategy. Keegan Leahy goes back to the front of those drivers that did come down pit road already. Nick Shelton in the 79 is on pit road getting service to his race car. The 33 of Ben Nelson, the only driver still out on the racetrack as he goes side by side with Eric Smith in the back straightaway. We'll see if the number 33 Team Dillon Esports car decides to come down into pit road this time, and he's slowing down onto pit road. So that'll put Keegan Leahy back to the lead position as they come by this time at a corner number 4, and Keegan Leahy should be scored as your leader right here.
That'll settle it. Everybody's going to cycle on through. The 79 of Shelton may have been credited with the lap, but as these guys get off it into turn 1, they do indeed now assume the number 1, 2, and 3 positions. And the fight for second may be the best as Luza slides at a 2. The dive to the inside. Can Corey Vincent get another one again? Luza was better on this short run last time. Started the trail off a little bit after 25 or 30 laps, but 5 laps removed from pit stops. He's down 2. First Leahy, now Vincent getting by, dropping him to P3.
Remember, Luza was one of the first drivers to come down pit road. Leahy, one of the latest. I'm actually surprised that Keegan didn't lose out on more time on that. Normally we see the undercut be more advantageous, but the 62 car handling that well, getting onto and off of pit road quickly, and he inherits that lead quickly as well as Luza seemingly starting to already drop off in pace as they currently run as well. Latest of this group in terms of coming down pit road, that honor ends up going to the 18 of Bobby Zielinski, who currently runs, actually no, I take that back, it was Keegan who was the latest. Bobby was second latest, so slightly newer tires for the 18 compared to the 2 cars in front of him. That's going to be an advantage he's going to work for about the next 40 laps.
And this will set you up anywhere from lap 90 to 95, assuming we remain under green flag racing conditions. That is where you would see everybody else come back down to the pit lane one more time for their second and final green flag pit stop. Tim, don't think anybody dared to try to go for the one stop or just didn't think it was possible. Even with that little bit of a difference, that 8 lap or so difference with the early yellow and a restart, no way to go on the one stopper. So everybody on the same page. That's not always the case when we get to these intermediate racetracks. Oftentimes it's a 50-50 split. Sometimes it's just a handful of drivers trying something different. This time everybody agreeing on what the strategy call is to be, and it's going to come down to speed on the racetrack to make the difference.
Yeah, give or take a couple laps on the strategy there, but Keegan Leahy out in front, continuing to lead. There's the 14 of Casey Kerwin once again, continuing to work around this racetrack, and battles with the 74 of Taylor Hurst in that little pack as well. You get the 74 right ahead of him. Right behind is the 55 of Brian Schoenberg. Not a battle near the front of the field, just outside the top 20, but some great racing here, and you can see Casey up on the wheel. He's got those hands working as he battles with Taylor Hurst and Brian Schoenberg. Schoenberg to the outside here.
Schoenberg to try to complete this pass in 26th position. Now to the inside goes the 55, as you can see Casey not really darting his eyes around, just trying to worry about running his line and whatnot in this group. Brian Schoenberg can't slide up to make the move. He'll stay down, and the front row seat continues for the drive of the 14, as I think now the 55 has got a good opportunity to clear, and he does in one.
It gets around the drive of that number 74 car of Taylor Hurst. As Tim said, a past winner of this race a handful of years ago, and Casey will get to close a little bit, but I don't think the door will come even close to opening for that number 14 car, as a couple different lines get taken by that 55 and the 74 as they run through 1 and 2. Seems like a close fight not far up in front of them as well. Michael Guest in the 17 a part of that, but for the most part, field really starting to get themselves single filed out as this pit stop sequence sort of come to an end. Another close fight though, the 77, the 5, and the 6. Zach Novak, Ashton Crowder, and Matt Busa, those three are tight, and that's for the tail end of your top 10 right now.
We take a look at this group. You mentioned the names. The 6 car leads the pack with the Zach Novak. Ashton Crowder, the car bringing up the rear. He was 9th last time, falls to 10th, so it was a position gained for the 5, the Williams Esports teammates of the Brian Schoenberg entry we were just talking about. Busa in P9 started 3rd though, so he's looking to make up some time lost, and a very different story in comparison to Zach Novak. Tim, that's somebody else who we talked about a little bit before we went live about drivers who have not had any issues adjusting to these cars. 35th in qualifying for Zach Novak, but he's got that Wyndham Rewards and the Oscar Mayer machine up now to 8th position. He's the biggest mover on the night so far.
And having a little battle here with Matt Busa, right along with the Williams Esports number 5 down the back straightaway. They'll work. The 6 car continues to be up on the wheel, and you can see up there's a little bit of a ways to catch the next battle, which is Michael Conti running in position number 7, and the ways ahead of him is Nick Ottinger. Continues to get a little bit tighter up near the front of the field as that 5. What a run he gets off of corner number 4. Busa now tries to go to the outside to try to make something happen here. Great run off of corner number 4. Really no place to put it but to the outside line as they'll dance down into 1.
Drivers have not been afraid. I know I said that Chicagoland is one of the intermediate racetracks that is on the maybe just higher up on my list than others, and that's kind of the reason why, is Randy, just the way that it works, the way it's shaped. That you mentioned the back stretch is a stretch, not a straight, because it's got that little bit of a curve to it. It seems open to drivers being able to bounce back and forth between the inside lane, between the outside lane. Really lends itself to passing, whereas at some racetracks you get locked into a lane, and if the guy in front of you wants to take that preferred lane away, it's nearly impossible. Absolutely not the case compared to what we've seen tonight.
Yeah, you're right. It's a very racy racetrack here at Chicagoland, and you mentioned the fact that people haven't been afraid to get up to the top side. As we look at the 12th place running car of Adam Benefiel as he works just outside of your top 10, has that 46 of Jimmy Mullis, all sorts of on top of him at the moment as they work through and down off of turn number 4. Actually, take that back. We're looking back at the 42 of Dylan Duvall, but you get such a good run coming off the corner on the outside. You look at the way the 5 car drove right around Zach Novak. That's why you can't be afraid sometimes to just hook it up and send it around the outside. Definitely seems to be the preferred lane here today.
70 laps going to be complete this time through. We're past the halfway point in tonight's Chicagoland 201. So let's take this opportunity to recap top to bottom what's happened so far with a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. At lap number 71, Keegan Leahy's your race leader. He holds 1.9 second advantage to top Corey Vincent P2, with Bobby Zelensky, Ryan DeMichaeluza, and Garrett Lowe running out your top 5. Shortly behind there, it's Nick Ottinger in the number 6 spot. That's exactly where he started. Michael Conti runs in 7th position. Matt Busa is in 8th. Then the plus 26 runner, Zach Novak, P9. He actually just lost one, so Crowder to 9th, and Novak rounds out your top 10.
How about this guy running in position number 11? Adam Benefield having a great run. Started in 20th, up to position number 11 in the Carolina Simworks car as he comes up on some lap traffic right now. The number 80 will go one lap down right behind him. Ray Alfala in position number 12. 13th is Dylan Duval, who's right up on Ray Alfala for that position. Jimmy Mullis battling with Christian Chalner. Chalner takes that spot away from Jimmy Mullis as they'll swap 14th. Logan Kress scored in 16th last time by. Malik Ray, Brad Davies, Blake Reynolds, and Michael Guest, your top 20.
Chris Overland in 21st with Brian Schoenberg in 22nd, who's fighting with that 16 car of Overland at the moment. Michael Griglia just behind in 23rd. Jake Nichols in 24th. Jarl T in 25th. Casey Kerwin, who you've seen a lot of tonight, 26th. Taylor Hurst, 27th. Casey Tucker in 28th. Phil Diaz in that Chicago Bears themed paint scheme in the 75 is 29th. And Ryan Lowe will round out your top 30.
Cool shout out for the Motorsports machine with the hometown race per se. Behind them, you got Kane Cook. The number 2 is 31st position, and the final car on the lead lap at the moment, the number 79 of Nicholas Shelton. Handful of other cars still in this one. One lap down is Benjamin Elson, 33rd. Also Eric J. Smith in 34th. It is a 6-lap deficit for the 24 of Cody Bias in 35th position. Logan Clampett is out of this race in 36th. Brandon Cattell is on track, and in about 30 laps, he'll take that spot away from Logan Clampett in 37th spot. Also out of this race, you got Timmy Hill 38th, and Nathan Lyon scored in 39th position. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. Use promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019, and you can get your sim racing career started and get your first 3 months on the service for just $10. Again, that is PR-eNASCAR 2019, and that applies to new memberships only. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid. Is the #1 driver at a racetrack right now remains Keegan Leahy. Has taken control of this race, matching a race best 3-second advantage.
The one driver that's on the move, and we mentioned it during the midway race break and continues to be on the move, how about the 83 car of Adam Benefield? Has picked up 2 spots since the last time we talked about him. He moved by Zach Novak and just got by Ashton Crowder. The 83 car has some long run speed here this evening, Evan, and I got a little bit of ways to go up and catch the next driver on his list, which would be the number 5 of Matt Busa, but it seems like the 83 car, he likes these long runs. He's going to be to the 5 of Matt Busa here as he gets that run coming out of corner number 4 and tries to reel in the Williams Esports number 5.
And make the move if he can. It has been an impressive drive for Benefield. The likes of Novak and Crowder have dropped a couple of positions in the last few laps, while the 83 remains on the charge. The 5, not a good quarter exit, so the 83 is going to be knocking on the door. We'll see if the move comes this time or if he'll wait. There it is, timing to the inside. Better tires, better race car at the moment will mean the inside line will work. And they'll stay 2 by 2 as the 5 of Busa not willing to roll over. Lap traffic, though, ahead with Eric J. Smith. They go 3 wide.
That's going to help the 83 so long as that lap car goes up high, and that's exactly what happened. So Busa is going to have to try and work the middle, and that's going to cost him a spot. So Adam Benefield, this impressive run, keeping up. He seems like maybe one of the strongest race cars out there on the track at the moment. He's still not quite as quick as your race leaders, but he's actually not far off pace with the guys running 2nd, 3rd, 4th place in line. That said, talking about that group, Bobby Zielinski's been reeling in the 27 of Corey Vincent. So that fight for 2nd and 3rd has closed up. It's currently about 6 car lengths that separates the 27 and the 18.
That's another battle to continue to keep an eye on. Zelensky obviously was making money moves at the end of the last green flag run, so I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that the Interstate Batteries Toyota is once again on the charge. The grand scheme of things, they're all losing time to Keegan Leahy, but it's all relative, and we'll see if Bobby can end up with 2nd position. Just about, Tim, I'd say 10 laps away from the core of the fuel window to open up, and for drivers to have the option to come down to the pit lane for the final green flag service of the night if this strategy is to play out. And considering that I think a lot of the drivers pitted towards the shorter end of that first window, wouldn't be shocked at all if we see some drivers in sooner rather than later.
and we've got some drivers that are on the move and like this long run. So we'll see what happens and see what transpires here on this final run. There's Casey Kerwin to the inside of the 74 of Hurst. You got Lowe in that battle as well. There's some great battles all the way around this racetrack as Casey Kerwin continues to battle. Ryan Lowe gets a great run in the middle of the corner. The Charlotte Strong number 7 to the outside. He'll go and try to roll that top and pick up a position. And I've had my eye on Michael Conti. Conti's been flashing the nose on the inside of Garrett Lowe the last couple laps. That's the battle for position number 5 as he tries to take a little move up high, down low. There's great battles all over this racetrack. It's hard to watch one battle as you see that 7 continue to go up, and there's that 8 car of Michael Conti on the outside. We typically see the field on a long green flag run, Evan, get strung out, and there's not a whole lot of these great little battles that we see here. Garrett Lowe slides that race car up the racetrack and almost loses control of the 28, but keeps it underneath him. Michael Conti will go by, and there's about 4 or 5 great little battles like this throughout this racetrack. This is great racing we're seeing tonight at Chicagoland.
And it's the package that's making the world of a difference. It allows these drivers to, maybe not allow them, but almost forces them to stay close to one another. And I think that I have seen enough differential tonight, Randy, where it's not a case of, because of the way the cars are, the best cars and the fastest cars can't get away. They're still able to do so, just it takes a little bit more effort. Case in point, the 8 Machida Conti get it around Lowe rather quickly and moving on to the next battle as he tries to chase down Lewis. And some of these other fights, the 19, the 20 car, you're watching a fight for 29th position right now. Again, those groups of 2 cars here, 2 cars there, easily a half a dozen battles on the racetrack at any given moment.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, and that's one of the things that's so great, I think, about this package. I don't think we saw this quite as much with the older car, and I think the way the draft sort of sucks cars up is great. We got a couple cars hitting pit road, though. The 19 of Casey Tucker deep in your running order, but on the lead lap. The 74 of Taylor Hurst just ahead of him as well. So green flag pit stop choices coming out from some cars running further down the field. This would make it a long run to the end. About 58 laps is what you would have to go, but I still think it's well within the window, or excuse me, 48 laps, not 58 laps, to make it to the end here. It'll be a long run, but I think it's in the fuel window, so this is about the earliest point I think the window opens up, and some people are deciding to step on through it.
And those are probably the same cars, if you rewind and look back for the first pit stop, that they came in early. I was guessing 10 laps, but I said I wouldn't be shocked if they were in earlier. 5 laps later, you do have a couple of takers, and they come from the back to the middle of the field. It is also interesting, Tim, that normally green flag pit stops tend to be kicked off by the leaders. It's not always necessarily the leader, but once you see the top 5 or a top 10 car come down to the pit lane, everybody else almost reacts to that and they come in. The first exchange of pit stops here was the complete opposite. Most of the midfield pitted before the cars up front did, so we'll be interesting to see if that stays true this time, because inside of 50 to go, we're in that fuel window to go all the way.
We'll see who decides to throw the hand out first in those top few drivers. And Keegan Leahy still out front in almost 4 seconds now, back to Bobby Zielinski, Corey Vincent. It looks like Keegan Leahy coming up on Nick Shelton in the 79 car. So Nick was one of those drivers that stayed out late on that run. And you see him now on the upside in the Clint Boyer Racing entry. Keegan Leahy coming down to try to put 1 lap on him before coming down onto pit road. But there's one of those drivers, as we mentioned, that stayed out late on that first run to flag pit stops, and now we'll go 1 lap down just prior to what we expect to be that second round of green flag pit stops here very shortly.
Here's a battle deeper in the pack with the number 79 car doing battle for with Kane Cook there as well, but the 62 going around him. A car, your race leader, Keegan Leahy, makes the move, and the 79 does a good job of getting out of his way. It was also interesting to just see, and if you keep your eye with your race leader, you're going to see it not that long. Bobby Zielinski in P2 had his doors blown off by a car that came flying through. That was Casey Tucker. Tucker, who pitted. Of course, fresh tires makes a big difference. Tucker's lap time before he came down and into the pit lane most recently was a 31.8. His best lap since then was a 30.2. That is a little bit less fall off inside of 2 seconds, Randy, than what we see, I would say, at a majority, or maybe what we would have expected to see, but it is still substantial time, and maybe that difference of that 1.8, 1.6 seconds or so of fall off kind of answers why Leahy didn't lose as much time as we would have expected. Typically, those intervals, sometimes 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and that's why I think I was expecting Lee to lose so much more. As Garrett Lowe comes on pit road, is that a car in the grass? I just saw along the bottom, or was that our graphic cycling through? I thought I saw a split. Oh, yeah, we got a car spun off pit road.
And slow now into the box, catching that car there. And we'll try to get a replay of this one up as soon as possible. But I caught that car as well on the inside of pit road. We'll see if we can get a number to you on this one. But certainly out of shape. Michael Guest was one of the cars on pit road. I think he's okay. Just cycling through. It was the 83 car of Adam Benefiel. That's where the issue was, the 83, and this is a whole lot bigger than what we first thought. It looked like he wanted to come down. There's the contact. Slowed down, wanted to come to pit road, and I just didn't think he was going to make it, Tim, so he pulls back up onto the racetrack right in front of the 5, and Matt Busa, who was running in 8th position at the time, got into him. Both of the cars in the grass. There's no caution, but they wrecked on pit road.
And that's what it is. It did not bring out a yellow flag. We're still green flag racing here. Keegan Leahy still scored as your leader, running lap 93 on the racetrack, putting Kane Cook one lap down. You saw Michael Conti was down on pit road there as the 62 car continues to work around as your lead car as they come up at a corner number 4, and he'll stay on the racetrack this time by to complete 93 on the racetrack. So one more lap. Keegan Leahy decides to stay out on the racetrack. Bobby Zielinski right behind him, and Corey Vincent in 3rd. They all stay out on the racetrack, albeit there is a little bit of insurance, a little bit of breathing room in between those top 3.
It was a scare, though. That yellow could have certainly shook things up. I think it was because the incident was off and into the grass and that it had ended on the pit lane that it doesn't end up being a caution. And, of course, the sim doesn't automatically trigger it, recognizing that there were no slow cars on the racing surface. I think that's the correct call, and we're going to be able to see this race play out. It's still Leahy, still Zielinski, Vincent, 1, 2, and 3. And with Leahy having stayed out a little bit longer on the last time, Randy, actually giving up the race lead, although relatively easily taking it back shortly thereafter. Curious if he's going to, stay with his guns, do the same thing. And if you're a Zielinski, I'm exactly where I was before, 3.5 seconds or so behind him. If the 18 maybe short pits by an even larger margin, and there it is, 18 car down to the pit lane, actually following Leahy. So the 62 did not want to take that gamble to stay out, give up the race lead. He's going to play defense, and he's the first in at the top 5.
Yep, and the top 3, I'll follow them actually. Luza, Leahy, and Zielinski, Leahy, Zielinski, and Vincent all cycle on towards pit road. Only car in your top 4 to not hit pit road was the 53 of Ryan Luza, who will inherit the race lead. Of course, remember, we saw this 53 car on the short run is really, really fast, and I think I might like this call, Evan, from the 53 of Ryan Luza. You have a late run call. Now, this I don't like. I think you needed to wait a couple of laps. You don't have a late run advantage. Run an extra handful of laps over the top of these guys and really set yourself up for a shorter run as possible going to the checkers as you possibly can. I think he needed to wait with the low drop-off we've been seeing here tonight. He really wasn't that far back. Run an extra 4, run an extra 5 laps, and see if that can work itself out. We saw it work for the 62. I think it could have potentially worked for the 53. This is a little bit more of a vanilla strategy. It's going to be the safe way to go, but I don't think he's going to win the race doing this.
It'd be a good result, though. He comes in, it's a lap after, so it is really going to be a minor impact on the overall strategy game. And second time in a row tonight, in a cycle of green flag pit stops, Jarl Tien goes to the number 1 position. The 66 machine is currently scored in the number 1 spot, followed by, looks like Casey Kerwin, Phil Diaz, Kane Cook, Jake Nichols. So good opportunity for those guys to run up front. The 2 machine dives down to pit road. This is actually battle for position, though. You're taking a look at to the inside. Goes Phil Diaz, trying to make a move on Kerwin. It's for P2 at the moment.
Battling for that second place position, Casey Kerwin gets that run off of corner number 2, and down the back straightaway they go, and this might be a battle soon for the lead as Jarl Tien decides to stay out on this opportunity. So Jarl will lead one more lap. Look at the run that Phil Diaz gets here at a corner number 4, tries to get up a little bit closer to the Clint Boyer Racing number 14, but can't do anything right here on this lap as Jarl Tien rounds the corner, and little sparks flying from the 14. Gonna complete lap number 99 this time by. We'll see if they decide to peel on to pit road this time.
We'll follow them down the back straightaway as they race back into some clouds, some overcast conditions in 3 and 4. Jarl Tien, at least in front of them, decides not to come down to the pit lane, and they as well decide that they want to stay out as we start lap number 135 laps to go in this race. This final portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bedliner. The tough comes easy. Almost completing our final cycle of green flag pit stops on the night. The driver who will reassume the race lead is Keegan Leahy right now in 6th.
Yeah, and it was a good round of pit stops from him as well. You look at the 18 of Bobby Zielinski, he's quite a ways off the back of that number 62 car with the 27 of Corey Vincent all over that rear spoiler. So those two pretty much run line astern as they run through corners number 3 and 4. You see Michael Conti up there on the top side of the racetrack. They just both got around him for position. He's fallen off a little bit. And the 27 of Corey Vincent not very far back there as well. What's actually befallen the 53 of Ryan Luza? See, look at the ground that 53 car has lost. A number of cars is out in front of him right now. Ray Alfala is out there. Ottinger, Garrett Lowe. The 53 really losing out on that strategy call as the 14 of Kerwin comes down pit road, and Phil Diaz trying to get some lead laps here, I think, for the Bears.
He's still waiting for Jarl Tien to give it up so that he can get a lap led, but he takes over the number 2 position at the moment. I also think for Luza, he's in a good position where he is going to have a slight tire advantage, and that car has been a bit better on the shorter runs, so he probably shouldn't end up with anything lost. I think he'll get back into a top 3 position by the time that this one cycles through, assuming he can catch up to the likes of Lowe and Conti. That's three seconds or so up to those guys. That's going to be the big hump that he needs to get over, but now we are just waiting those top 2 cars to come down to the pit lane to completely put a bow on this final exchange of pit stops, and now caution flag willing, running this one out to the end. It's certainly looking like it's Keegan Leahy's race to lose.
Should mention as well, those top 2 that are battling it out, or 4.5 seconds out, battling it out on the pit strategy, I guess we can say, are those 2 drivers that are on the good side of the bubble right now when it comes to the top 20 battles. So keep an eye on that as well. You mentioned Phil Diaz wanting to stay out and maybe lead a lap for the home team, but right now he might be trying to stay out and get an extra point on that championship battle, trying to get into the top 20 for this series for next year. Look at that battle on your screen, though. Bobby Zielinski, Corey Vincent going at it. That is currently a battle for position number 4, but may turn into a battle for about 2nd place or so as this cycles through. There goes the Alienware number 27 to the inside, looking to pick up one on Bobby Zielinski. Will do so. We'll clear him at a corner number 4, and they'll resume the fight down the front straightaway to complete lap 104.
And before the pit stops, Bobby Zielinski was pretty comfortably in the number 2 position, so this fight for 2nd might actually lose out at all of this. And a good run on the outside for the Renegades Alienware Ford. The 27 of Corey Vincent up to 4th. Should become 2nd. We'll see if he is going to get away for the 18 or if Zielinski can challenge back for that position.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this 18 car can do, because Bobby's been sort of a comer and goer all race long. We've seen him sort of charge up to the field and pick up a spot, and then he'll drop back a little bit, and then he'll charge back up, and then he'll drop back. We've really not seen that 18 car have consistent momentum working forwards or backwards for that matter, but it has been consistently quick, and it's been a nice quiet run for this 18 car of Bobby Zielinski as they roll. Ryan Luza currently working as well on the 8 of Michael Conti behind as they work in towards 1 and 2. Luza on the bottom, Conti up top. Damage car rolling on the apron at the moment, should be clear of everything, and Ryan Luza is going to hold this inside line as they work through the tri-oval.
Holds the very inside, comes back up, and will give Conti some limited space on the outside. Is now way to the inside, goes to 53, holding the outsides. Conti loses, not going to be able to clear there though, so the momentum courtesy of the 18 degrees of banking will bring Conti back to a half a car length advantage. Now nose to nose in the center of 3 to 4, the battle for P6, which should by the end of this one become a top 5 spot for both of them.
And it will be this time by because Phil Diaz and the 66 of Jarl Tien are both on to pit road. So Keegan Leahy will resume the lead up in front. And this battle here will become a battle for a top 5 position once the scoring will cycle through. Should be 4th and 5th as Ryan Luza holds that spot over Conti for the time being.
Conti gets right back onto the bumper, and at this point, inside of 30 laps to go, you're kind of making your last-ditched efforts. If you're going to push, now's the time to do it. And I think to the case that I debated a few laps prior, I think Luza, again, is going to be fine as he gets that position, so he's back to fourth. Question is, does he catch up to Bobby Zalenski and gain a little bit extra? But Luza has made up for the little bit that he gave away by pitting a lap later, and he is in a perfectly content spot as we jump back and watch the Sunoco race at entry of Malik Ray do battle with a couple of cars. The 20-winner Ray Alfala is in front of him. Here he goes to the inside. It's for 8th and 9th.
What a rebound drive, and we've talked about what the 83 was doing of Adam Benefield before he spun off and down on towards pit road, unfortunately. But this number 90 car, Malik Ray, we're talking about him missing the start pretty much and more or less going down a lap early in this thing, and now coming up towards 20 laps to go, he's fighting inside of the top 10 right now, side by side with the 21 of Ray Alfala. Ray has that preferred line on the outside, at least as far as being able to fight with people. But look at all these cars we have stacked up. All these cars on screen for position, the 21, the 90, the 30, and the 77 and the 6 behind. 5-car battle, all fighting for 8th, 9th, and 10th inside of your top 10.
Might be one of the best battles we're going to be able to watch down to the end of this race. That time at the line, it was Malik Ray. Very slight advantage over Alfala, courtesy of the inside line. He tried to slide up, wasn't clear. 21 fights back. Here's a big run for Reynolds. And I thought they were going to go 3 wide, but the 30 thinks better of it. He'll stay in line and allow the 90 and the 21 to keep going at it mano-a-mano. Again in turn 4, Alfala just too good on exit. All kinds of sideways, though, pushing the limit there, and contact that time as they got a little bit out of shape.
Alfala sideways on that outside line, almost collected about 5 cars in behind him, but now that 30 of Blake Reynolds trying to stick the nose to the inside of the Sunoco number 90. Blake Reynolds has been reeling off top 6 finishes this year. He needs to get a little more here. Look at that move by Ray Alfala. Slides that nose to the inside of the 90, and Ashton Crowder, where did he come from? 77 to the inside. It's going to get tight. Off of corner number 4, the 90 going to try to roll the top and take that spot away. Alfala stuck in the middle and trying to get that little bit of dirty air from the outside in the 90 and trying to make this move happen, and it's closing in. Zach Novak too. What a fight for 8th.
Yeah, Ashton Crowder kind of boxed that 21 of Ray Alfala in, trapped him by going down to the inside. He took the 21's line away. Ray Alfala would have made those moves in 3 and 4 if it wasn't for the 77. Instead, he stays behind. It is Malik Ray in 8th position. The 30 car of Blake Reynolds up to 9th, wanted more. He's the driver with a big run this time, diving down to the inside all the way to the apron. I don't think he'll get all the way clear. He does. Oh. What a drive by the 30.
You may not have thought he was going to get clear, but the 30 of Blake Reynolds, he sure as hell thought he was going to get clear as they work off a 2 and down the back straightaway. So Malik Ray drops back into P number 9, and the 21 of Ray Alfala. He's been able to hold off the 6 of Zach Novak, but for how long? The Oscar Mayer car works down to the inside of that Wood Brothers number 21, and Zach Novak will pick that spot up. So Ray Alfala will fall just outside of your top 10. The thing nearly gets spun. I think Ray kind of set him there. That's a bit of a rough move, I think, for the 21 of Alfala.
It was a good save by Zach Novak. Alfala tried to go low. The 6 went to block, and the 21 with no intentions of lifting. The replay will show he kept his foot in the throttle and about took the 6 car out of it. Novak's lucky to still be on track, and Alfala's going to win out in that fight for P10.
And you know what? He didn't lose many positions, lost a little bit of track time, but he's now right behind his teammate Michael Guest. His Guest works to the inside. Look at this replay from Ray Alfala. To the inside he goes, and there's that little contact to send that 6 car into the infield and back out onto the racetrack. The 6, though, of Zach Novak working the outside of Christian Chalner, or at least trying to get there. That last lap by went a little wide at a corner number 2 and lost a little bit of ground, but he only lost 3 positions in that battle, and 2 of them are sitting right there in front of him. We'll see if he can get back to Ray Alfala, though. There's only about a second in between that Oscar Mayer number 6 and that Wood Brothers number 21.
It'd be awfully fun if they were able to find each other once more. You see the big line of cars between the two. Ray Alfala's work is not done yet, because here's again the 77 of Ashton Crowder to the inside. I think that move, though, by the 21 was a lot of a tough season. Ray's got a good car tonight. He has had a good race, and just doesn't want anybody in his way. Wants to be able to close this one out, and instead of the aggressive drive that we've seen courtesy of the 21 all 2019 long. Guest now to the inside of Crowder for 11th spot, and again, if these guys start to group them up too wide, it opens the door for Zach Novak to get back, and it would be awfully fun to see what happens if that happens.
Oh, it definitely would be. The 17 of Michael Guest. He's going to go up the inside of the 21 of Alfala, and he's going to make it interesting off of turn 2. Gets a good run down the back straightaway, but as we know, that outside line has been strong when you're side by side in towards turn 3. The 77 of Ashton Crowder cheering the 17 of Michael Guest along. Michael able to get clear of the 21. The 77 wants to follow him through. Challenger's there. The 21 crosses the nose on the 77 of Crowder, able to just about hold on to that spot. And meanwhile, the whole time this is happening, the 6 and Novak getting back involved with this fight.
And Challenger looked out to the very outside line as the 6 car desperately tries to join back in on the fun. Still kind of relegated to the outskirts of this exchange in the number 14 position. But a tip of the cap to Malik Ray, to Michael Guest. They look like the drivers who have been able to survive this one. In fact, another position gained for the Nani Malik Ray. He just passed Michael Guest for 9th.
Yeah, Malik Ray is on the march right now. He told me a little bit earlier that if that car can stay clean, he has definitely a top 10 car this evening, and definitely proving that, but I'm sure he wants just a little bit more. But slowly running out of time here. They'll come by this time and have 14 laps to go at Chicagoland. Just behind them, that battle continues to intensify between the 77 of Ashton Crowder, the 37 of Chalner, and the 21 of Ray Alfala. Chalner stepped up to that outside line. It looks like it's going to work, or it was going to work down the front straightaway, but Chalner going to pull even and try to poke that nose underneath the number 21. Chalner drove it in deep down to corner number 1.
Hasn't been a stranger to doing that. The 77 had a little bit of room to work with. He'll slice between the two. And here's the drive for Ashton Crowder now. Really hard now into turn 3. He's going to struggle with the speed off, but he's taking the line away for the 21, and he has got it. Move Crowder to P11.
Great move there from Ashton to pick that spot up. Next in line is going to be Christian Challenger to freight train the 21 of Ray Alfala up the inside in towards 1 and 2. Christian just about going to get clear of that, and he's going to get clear of that 21 Ford of Ray Alfala. Next car in line, we just saw them make contact about 7 laps ago. The 6 is about 10 car lengths off the back of the 21 of Ray Alfala, and he is reeling him in, and I don't think Zach is going to give that 21 car much breathing room at all.
You can see a couple of sets of 2x2 here and there on the horizon, but I really want to watch this battle for 13th position to see how it plays out. You're on board with him in the Roush Fenway Ford Mustang. You see the gap as he sees it. A little bit of a higher line in the corner. He's there. A car length now, the difference that separates them into turn number 3. If you're Zach Novak, Tim, are you going to let the 21 know you didn't appreciate it? Or are you going to go for the clean pass? He's right on the bumper to the inside, and side by side they'll go again.
And if you're Ray Alfala, knowing that 6 car is hard charging, do you give him a little more room right now? The 21 way up to the wall. Zach Novak goes down on the inside, and it's closed in Brad Davies a little bit as well. The 88 car getting a little bit bigger in the rear view mirror, as is Dylan Duval. And there's the 21, little bump down the back straightaway to the 6 of Zach Novak. There's no love lost here between these two.
Remember, it all started because it was the 6 car who threw a little bit of a block when the 21 went to make the move on the bottom, so I was curious if it was going to be a role reversal. I think Ray Alfala is smart enough to know that if he threw that same block on the 6, he'd probably get the same courtesy back, and it wouldn't have happened. So the 6 car was able to make the move. Alfala didn't block him, gave him the inside line, and that little bit of a love tap, but it appears this exchange is over with. Novak ends up 13th. May not be done, though, for Ray Alfala. Again, he had a good night not all that long ago, Randy. Was inside of the top 10, but he's starting to slip back, and he could lose a couple more spots with the 42 of Duval and the 88 of Brad Davies hot on his heels.
Both of these guys have been looking hot as well. The 88 of Brad Davies, we haven't been able to talk about him much tonight, but he currently sits plus 12. He'd love to make it plus 13 as the 42 of Duval works up the inside of the 21 of Ray Alfala, and Dylan's going to look to get as good of a run as he possibly can off the corner, but it's actually not great. Actually keep an eye on that double 8 of Brad Davies into turn 3. I thought he might have sensed it a little bit, would be that Dale Jr. car, but for Brad Davies, he's still very much a part of this fight, and just behind Jimmy Mullis and the 46 is lurking back there as well. This is about to be a 4-car scrap yet again.
Duval trying to do one of the hardest things, that is establish outside position on the tri-oval. He was able to do so, looking for the run at a 2 to pay dividends. Ray comes up but leaves the door open, and here comes Duval in the fight for 14th position, side by side with Ray, and behind them as well, side by side, Davies and Mullis exchanging that 17th and 18th spot, but I think the 42 of Duval is going to be able to close here.
And we're closing in on the final few laps of this race. It's hard to believe with all the great racing that we've seen here so far this evening as Duval holds that outside line. Ray Alfala takes a little peek to the inside. We see a couple of close battles within the top 10. Of course, this battle just outside the top 10 in position number 14. Malik Ray and the 30 of Blake Reynolds going back and forth for position number 8. Reynolds putting the pressure on, and there's the other battle in the top 10. It's the battle for second. It's Corey Vincent. It's Bobby Zielinski. Zielinski's been pouring the pressure on these last few laps, has got a couple of good runs. We saw it earlier with Zielinski. It took him a couple laps to work the inside on a couple of these passes. He doesn't really have a couple laps right now. He's got 5 laps to get this done, and he's doing the same thing. Zielinski, that car slides up a little bit. The tires are worn on that thing. It's driving terrible, but he's trying to get second place.
It did not appreciate that drive to the inside. The car was not cooperating, and Corey Vincent saw what was going on and moved up about as high as he could. Zielinski's not going to rest, though. He wants this P2 spot. It's certainly going to be a battle down to the end. Inside of 5 laps to go, as we mentioned, this is normally where we talk about the point to no return. Next yellow would end it. Not the case. It has been a great 122 lap long green flag stretch to this point, but still with a possibility that if there's a yellow flag to come, we would see the first ever green-white checkered protocol. Will it happen tonight, or will that milestone be saved for another night? Leahy hoping it's the latter. He's 5.4 ahead of the fight for second.
The way some of these packs are looking, though, and the way they're fighting, it might come into play as hard as some of these guys are tossing it on one another. The 18 of Zielinski up the inside of the 27 of Corey Vincent. Can he get the job done this time, or set up to keep the move alive off of 4? He's going to make a little contact, I think, with that 27 of Corey Vincent. They'll be line astern as they work across the front stretch and in towards 1 and 2. But the Interstates batteries, number 18, is going to have to fall into line once again, and Bobby's going to try to set the run up on the bottom another time as well.
He's trying to make the inside line work, and Corey Vincent knows that it's just not going to stick with the tires this old. Zielinski had fallen off Tim, but has closed into racing laps. He's probably the better of the 2 cars, but his 2 laps going to be enough to make the move. Big run this time at a 4. Popsicle sticks are in the air.
He may have the faster car, he may need clean air, but he doesn't have it behind Corey Vincent right now. But you saw him kind of use up the 27 a little bit. Not by choice. That car on the inside drifted up a little bit. Bobby Zielinski, if he wants second place, he may have to use up the Renegades number 27 this time by. But we're coming down to a lap and a half to go. Bobby Zielinski's going to need to set this pass up and try to make it work. We'll see what he can do here as Keegan Leahy rolling towards the white flag.
Zielinski again inside positioning, some 6 seconds off your race leader. White flag in the air and 1 more lap to go from the Chicagoland Speedway. Zielinski knows in front, in fact, to turn 1. Can he complete the pass to the Interstate Batteries Toyota? It's going to be close at it, 2, and he's got it for the time being. This one's going to go down to the checkered flag, but in front of them, it's Keegan Leahy, a 3-time winner last season, and he's now got 2 of the last 3 this year. Checkered flag, the 42 winning tonight from Chicagoland. The battle behind to the end, the 27 of Corey Vincent hanging on to defeat Bobby Zielinski. So it is Keegan Leahy, race winner tonight. Vincent second, and Zielinski rounded out your podium. That is the largest margin of victory, Randy, we've seen on an oval all season. 6.2 seconds on a green flag run to the end that lasted 126 laps.
Absolutely dominating performance coming from the driver of the 62 car of Keegan Leahy. Undoubtedly the class of the field tonight, and he's going to rightfully so start burning them down on this front straightaway. But what a fight as well we saw. What an ending to this race. So many fights up and down the field after so much green flag racing. But at the end of it all, it's the 62 who reigns supreme.
And he is celebrating on the front straightaway for the G2 Esports guys. The first trip for them to victory lane was those 2 weeks ago, and The point that we made right off at the top of the show, Tim, was with Ryan Luza having a couple of rough weeks, and it was a great night for the driver of the 53. He ends up in a P4 and returns to form, but we said watch Leahy was the first name that we mentioned. We said a few, but Leahy there, P2. It's the drivers who find the consistency and find the speed late in the regular season that prime themselves for a good playoff run, tend to be the dangerous ones, and the 62 stayed hot tonight.
And when we look at those point standings during our post-race show, they're going to be continuing to get tighter because you see on your screen with those results, Ryan Luza, P4, Keegan Leahy, P1. Leahy stayed out front, led the most laps tonight. Oh boy, it's going to be close when we get to that next round in 2 weeks in Kentucky.
You want to stick around for post-race coverage to get a look at the updated points. First, though, let's look top to bottom at tonight's Race Spot TV full race results. Keegan Leahy is headed to victory lane in the number 62 machine, atop Corey Vincent second, Bobby Zielinski's third, Ryan Luza finishes fourth, and Michael Conti rounds through your top five. We'll have an opportunity to chat with all of them here in just a couple of moments. Nick Ottinger just missed it out on that. He's in the number 6 spot. Garrett Lowe finishes 7th, and a lot of big movers. Malik Ray from 33rd to 8th. You got Blake Reynolds up 13 to P9, and your biggest mover of the night made a lot of late moves. How about Michael Guest up 27 to round out your top 10?
Big names here on the next page. You have Christian Chalner in 11th, Ashton Crowder in 12th. Zach Novak made his way up to 13th. Dylan Duval was able to grab 14th away. Ray Alfala 15th. Jimmy Mullis 16th. Brad Davies 17th. Michael Gariglia 18th. 19th was Logan Kress. Kind of quiet here this evening, but a great top 20 run for the number 31. And completing your top 20, how about the 7 of Ryan Lowe?
Casey Tucker ends up in 21st with Brian Schoenberg in 22nd. Taylor Hurst in 23rd. Phil Diaz in 24th for the home race. For those guys in the motorsports, Casey Kerwin in 25th. Jarl T in 26th. Chris Overland in 27th. Nicholas Shelton in 28th. Jake Nichols 29th. And Kane Cook will round out your top 30. Eric Smith, Ben Nelson, Cody Bias, Adam Benefiel, Matt Busa, Brandon Cattell, Logan Clampett, Timmy Hill, and Nathan Lyon will round out the 39 car field.
Look top to bottom at your Race Spot TV full race results. Let's head down to eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series Victory Lane, where Keegan Leahy stands by, coming out of tonight's Chicago 201 on the top of the mountain as your race winner tonight for the virtual Chicagoland Speedway. We're with him now, Keegan. Congratulations. Another win as you guys kind of continue this mid-season roll. You've won 2 of the last 3, and tonight it was an impressive long run in which you guys didn't waver.
Yeah, it was a great car. I said in our last interview, I thought we would be pretty strong this week because it's a very similar track to Charlotte, and we ended up getting very similar weather too to Charlotte, so that really played into our favor. It ended up getting really cold with the clouds rolling in, and yeah, sorry I made the race a little boring maybe. It was there's a bit of a gap there for most of the race, but I'm sure there's plenty of crazy mid-pack brawls going on, and yeah, I'm super happy about this.
The package certainly kept things interesting, despite the fact that it looked like you had things on lock. I mentioned 6.2 seconds, the largest margin of victory we've seen on an oval this year. But, of course, there's that early caution flag, and it kind of feels like it's going to be one of those races. The next thing you know, we run the rest of the race to the end green. On your first pit stop there, you waited a little bit longer than some of the other guys in the top 5 to pit. That wasn't the case the second time around. Just talk us through those decisions.
Yeah, my plan with the first pit stop there was to make sure that I don't get caught with a yellow. But with the second pit stop, I had such a gap on most of the people that even if I pit early and a yellow came out, it wasn't going to be that big of a deal because most of the field would end up having to pit for tires anyway. So it was just a risk-reward thing. I knew I wasn't going to really lose the lead, at least not for too long of a period there if I stayed out long. But yeah, it's just a lot of really good strategy calls from my group, and yeah, we came away with a win partly due to that.
It's funny because oftentimes, we see drivers who, match your number, now 5 career wins in this series, which puts you, I think, about 7th, tied for 7th all-time, you, PJ Sturgis, with that mark. A lot of the time they're getting those wins on the same racetrack, or at least the same kind of racetrack. But you guys have now locked up wins in Phoenix, Kansas, Pocono, Charlotte, and now tonight from Chicagoland Speedway. What do you think that says about your ability to adjust and to be good pretty much just about anywhere?
Yeah, that's my whole focus as a driver and a setup builder. I try to be as as well versed in every single type of racing discipline within NASCAR. Even road course racing, I've focused a lot on that to try to improve. So I think that's what makes a really good driver and iRacer, is to really understand how everything works, get every little bit out of the car you can, get every little bit out of yourself that you can. And yeah, being 7th on the leaderboards, that's amazing, because just 5 years ago I was watching this series without even an iRacing subscription, and I just wanted to be in this series, and I never saw myself winning.
You picked a good time to show up and get those wins, of course. Every win in 2019 comes with that $500 prize. Another point before we let you go that we've been talking about tonight is drivers getting hot at the right time. And certainly it's getting late in the season. Now's the time to do it. There's still 4 weeks, though, until we wrap up this regular season and we erase those points in which you may just be on top of coming at it tonight with yet another performance. So what's the key as we continue to Kentucky, Pocono, Michigan, and Bristol to keep things nice and tight getting prepped for the playoffs?
Yeah, the thing is, you don't want to show your advantage too early, and that's why drivers seem to get hot and then cool off. The competition always works to get to your level, and if you're well clear of the field, they're just gonna find it within a week or so, probably, at least close the gap down. So I'm sure everyone will be a lot closer next week, and definitely by the playoffs, that's when everyone really turns it up a notch. And last year I probably peaked a little bit early. I made it into the playoffs, but didn't get past the round of 8. So I'm pretty solidly in there now. I've got two wins now. That'll be 6 playoff bonus points coming into it. And I just want to get to Homestead. That's my goal. And whatever happens after that happens.
Tonight is another step in the right direction. Keegan, we'll let you jet out of here. Before we do, sponsors, shout-outs, all the good folks behind the scenes who bring us the G2 Esports car to the racetrack every week.
Well, first of all, great work by everyone at Coanda. We had, unfortunately, Chris couldn't make the race this week, but he put in a lot of work. Really good qualifying setup. I messed that up a little bit. Ended up 4th. I could have taken pole down, or at least 2nd behind my teammate Bobby. Mitchell DeYoung, thanks so much for the help spotting and making the pit calls this week. That was perfect. And thanks to VRS for being on the hood, Virtual Racing School. We've got setups, driver coaching, tutorial videos, everything you can ask for. We've even got a direct drive wheel coming out, so take a look at that. And G2 Racing, or G2 Sim Racing, G2 Esports. I'm sure there's some people watching the race, watching this interview back at home. Everyone that's watching right now, thank you so much for being a part of this.
He's your race winner tonight for the Chicagoland Speedway. Keegan, we always appreciate the time. Congratulations once more, and we'll catch you back at it in 2 weeks' time.
Great. Thank you, Evan.
Dominating performance for the driver of the number 62 Chevrolet. It's Keegan Leahy's race to the tune of 6.2 seconds, and what a finish it was for 2nd and 3rd. The driver who wins out in that late race fight is the 27 Corey Vincent. He is P2 tonight, trackside with Tim.
And we'll start with this battle for position number 2 with Corey Vincent, and back and forth with Bobby Zielinski at the end of that race, trying to take away that 2nd place run, and continuing to run back and forth the last couple laps, crossing over, and Corey finally getting that position here at the end. There we go. I think we got Corey Vincent hooked up here. Corey, let's talk about that battle between you and Bobby Zielinski. What was going through your mind those last couple laps as Bobby continued to work the inside?
Yeah, what a crazy battle there with Bobby at the end. Man, it took all I had to hold him off there on the top. He was definitely faster, at the end of the run there. And when we came out on that last pit stop, I came out behind him, and I tried to save a little bit. I knew he would be faster at the end of the run, but if I could just save a little bit and just have enough tires so I could race him at the end, I knew that would be good. And man, he almost got me. That was close, but man, what a good car we had. It was our Renegade's Ford Mustang was solid. We didn't quite have the pace that Keegan had. We got a little tight on the longer runs, but man, what a car. I got to give a big thanks to the guys at ERG Esports Racing Group, all those guys over there that work on these cars and do all the testing. Big thanks to those guys, especially Chris Roberts. He puts a lot of time in trying to figure out these cars and find the speed that we're missing. So big thanks to him, and yeah, just extremely happy to get a 2nd place finish. We needed this. Yeah.
When you guys were doing your testing throughout the last 2 weeks, did you anticipate we'd have 120-plus laps green to the end of the race, or did you think there would be a couple of cautions sprinkled in this one?
Honestly, I figured, I thought we would go green, really. But I'm not surprised by a couple cautions. It was still a really fun race. We definitely wanted those long runs because we knew our car was solid, and we didn't want to, we didn't want that pack racing, 3 wide racing. Didn't want that because I've been getting wrecked a lot in these races. So I wanted to get separated from the field and just kind of show what the car could do. But yeah, just happy with the run.
We're a couple of races away from the playoffs, but you mentioned you guys needed this second place run. You guys have had one top 5 coming in to this evening, was 26th in the point standings coming in to this race at Chicagoland. What does the big picture look like for this 27? Where do you guys see yourself at the end of the season? What would you be happy with here, trying to turn the corner here and turn the page?
Yeah, the season definitely been a lot of bad luck. A lot of unfortunate stuff has happened, getting caught up in a lot of wrecks. Like you said, we're sitting 26th. I think realistically, the goal right now is just to make sure we get in the top 20 and secure ourselves in there at the end of the season. If we could string together some good runs like we have lately the last couple of races, I'd be happy with that. And maybe a top 15, I think. But as long as I get in that top 20, I'd be happy.
You mentioned Team Renegades. Who else is on the side of this race car for partners, and who else do you want to thank here this evening to help you get to the racetrack?
Yeah, big thanks to Renegades, Alienware for their support. Like I said, Esports Racing Group, all those guys over there that helped me out. Wouldn't be running up here without them. Just thanks to those guys for all their help.
There's Corey Vincent, a great run here this evening. Great to see this 27 car and Corey Vincent back up in the top 5. But Randy, he battled with Bobby Zielinski at the end. Bobby was determined to get to the inside, but just couldn't get there at the end for that spot. You've caught up with him.
Yep, 2 races in a row where we have long green flag runs. Sonoma, it was guaranteed. He won that one and finishes 3rd today. Bobby, it has to feel nice to... You had sort of an unlucky first half of this championship, I think, thus far, but seems like that number 18 Joe Gibbs Interstate Batteries Toyota is starting to get some momentum. I'm sure that has to feel nice.
Yeah, for sure. It was really nice to see just a 1 caution race tonight. Even if it might have been a little, not as action-packed as seeing cars slip all the time, but I thought it was, I had some good racing going around me with Ryan and Corey, and I just wanted a nice, calm race and get a top 5 with how we qualified, and that's what ended up happening. That restart was so crucial, though, because me and Keegan are about the same pace. He was able to get through the restart a lot better than me, and I got kind of stuck behind Corey and lose it for a while, and he was able to just check out. So then I pretty much spent the whole race battling Corey, which was a lot of fun, but damn it, I really wanted that 2nd place.
And I know for you, Bobby, with the sort of notoriety this series is starting to pick up and all the momentum we're starting to see not only the teams really get involved with this championship with all the sponsorships, of course, you being one of the beneficiaries there running for Joe Gibbs, but every single week it seems like we have a social media rep from one of these racetracks watching these broadcasts, being active in the chat, and that really paid off in dividends for you a couple weeks ago, winning the race at Sonoma. They got you some tickets, and you ended up going out there to the racetrack. How was your sort of VIP experience there?
Oh, it was great. That's my favorite track in sim racing, and I never got a chance to go there. So just that was awesome, and meeting up with the guys at Joe Gibbs Racing and just getting hot passes and all that good stuff. It was just a great time, and it's still the beginning of this whole sim racing boom, right? So, everyone needs to get on now before it's too late. All these big teams, if you're not already in the series, what are you doing? So yeah, it's been really good. And we're just going to continue building on that.
7 races left, and we only have one more of those of these 1.5 mile tri-oval sort of cookie cutter style racetracks. They just start blending words together as we head to Kentucky in 2 weeks' time. How do you think we're going to see things pan out there?
Hopefully a lot of the same. We had a really big pace advantage tonight. I'd expect people to just catch up naturally because the series is so competitive. Honestly, tonight was how I hoped Charlotte would go before I had my internet drop. So, I'm just going to be grateful we had this kind of race, nice, calm, but still some racing from my end with Corey. So that was fun. Kentucky is going to be pretty nice actually because it's flat and bumpy and not as much. I don't think we're going to be able to go wide open around those corners. Just it's not enough grip there. So I'm looking forward to that race for sure. just because, you know, it's honestly not one of the cookie cutters now with this package. So it's like a little step below intermediate to me. So I look forward to it.
Well, it'll be fun seeing how that pans out in a couple weeks' time. But Bobby, before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 18 Joe Gibbs Interstate Batteries Toyota Camry?
Right there, Joe Gibbs Racing, Interstate Batteries, you know, great supporters of the team and the car, and it's just great to be a part of that. You know, thanks to all the guys behind the scenes at Coanda, you know, Philip, my spotter, got to thank Josh Rogers, Mitchell was there as well, and, you know, my boys helping build the setups, Chris and Keeg. I mean, and they're just fantastic to work with, and, you know, that's how we get results like this. It wouldn't be possible without them. And, almost forgot, sorry. Got to thank Virtual Racing School. Obviously, I'm on the alpha version of the Direct Force Pro, and you know, I think it's going to be a great product for the sim racing market coming out soon. And you can also go to VRS for coaching and data packs, setups, everything to help you become faster.
Well, there he was, driver of the 53, of the 18, Bobby Zielinski comes home in the third spot. Driver of the 53, Ryan Luza, he had a very fun run tonight, and he's caught up with Tim Terry, as I'm sure Tim's going to make fun of me for that fumble as well.
Well, Ryan Luza comes home with position number 4, and after last week at Sonoma, how refreshing is this to be back in the top 5 in this series at Chicagoland?
That's nice. Definitely don't want to revisit Sonoma. That was not good for anyone. But yeah, it was nice. We still got some speed to find. Not really sure what's going on, but we have really, really good short run speed, but the long run speed is definitely not there. So definitely something that we need to really focus on and maybe find just a little bit for qualifying. But we have a couple weeks to do it, and we're sitting pretty comfortable as far as making the chase. So just keep running well and just try to put ourselves locked in within these next 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully.
You mentioned the point situation, and yeah, it's comfortable to get into the playoffs. Are you putting any weight on that regular season championship? Because Keegan right now has the upper hand unofficially by 2 points after this week. Are you putting any weight on trying to become a regular season championship, or is that just a feather in the cap going towards that championship?
I don't even know if it's really a feather in the cap. I think the biggest thing is wins, right? As far as getting your bonus points in the chase is what really matters, and how you run in the chase, along with the money. So points not really so much, but obviously we need to be far enough up to be comfortable as far as the top 8 is concerned. But if we win, we'll take the points lead back. So that's all we can really try to do, is go out there and win. But it's not a huge deal. Just really getting bonus points for the chase is going to be big, because this is going to be a really tough field of 8 when we're going down to 4.
And we talk about that long run speed, trying to search with it for this package. Can you take anything here and translate it into Kentucky coming up in 2 weeks' time? And what do we expect as a race fan? What do we expect to see out of that Kentucky Speedway in a couple weeks?
I think it'll be pretty similar. Kentucky is actually one of my favorite tracks on the service. The bottom's competitive, the top's competitive. It's pretty bumpy, so you have to have a different style of setup for Kentucky. So hopefully that shakes up things a bit as far as setups are concerned and speed of different teams. But I don't know. It's nice to have a couple cautions thrown in, right? The race today was just a green flag run, and obviously the most dominant cars were up front. But when we have those cautions, it's a little bit more exciting, especially with the drafting package. I'd rather it be how it was tonight, but it'd be a better show if we can get some cautions thrown in there for the fans.
So you were hoping for that first green-white checker in series history, right?
Oh, I definitely was. We had a extremely strong short-run car. That was our only chance at it, and we all knew it. After about lap 10, we just faded. Not really sure what it was, but that would have been nice to have that green-white checker, that's for sure.
You have a lot of great partners on this Flipside car. Who makes it happen for you to get to the virtual racetrack each week?
Just thanks to Flipside Tactics for drafting me this year and putting their support behind me. Thanks to everyone at FSR, Derek for spotting me, Jared Crawford working on the sets, Garrett Lowe as well. We had another strong run tonight. I think we both probably should have brought it home in the top 5, but we did the best we could. And thanks to the team as well for our alliance with them, and iRacing and all the partners that have been brought in for this year.
And there's Ryan Luza coming home with another top 5 finish and battling it out up in front with those point standings. But as he mentioned, Randy, comfortable right now heading towards that playoff picture. And speaking about another driver that's heading towards the playoff picture right now, Michael Conti finishes in position number 5.
Yeah, Michael Conti finishes 5th tonight and finds himself 5th in the standings, so I think Michael has to be happy with that. Michael, that number 8 car, we had it on the screen and our cameras pointed at it several times tonight. You were sort of a comer and goer, it felt like. A couple times you dropped sort of outside of that top 5, had to fight your way back into it. I'm sure it was a stressful night for everyone involved with that number 8 Junior Motorsports car.
Yeah, it's really been a stressful week, to be honest with you. We've been going at it hard here, trying to make our intermediate package better. We were pretty decent at Charlotte, but definitely didn't have anything for Keegan and all those guys. And I mean, we were absolute garbage. 24 hours ago, we did A Open. I posted something on Twitter about it. We were out to lunch, so my hat is off to all the guys on this team that turned this car around. Like you said, I mean, we were up, we were down. We didn't have the best short run car, but we were pretty strong in the long run. So definitely we can take something from this and apply it to Kentucky. Still a lot of work to do in the filter time car, but we're in a pretty decent spot going into the playoffs here. So definitely some positives to take from tonight.
And with the newest update that we've had on the iRacing service, I always like to sort of ask sort of the people who've been running in this series the longest, sort of their impression on what changes bring. And one of the biggest we've had to at least the race format in really the past 10 years of the series is the addition of green-white checkered. There was a big talking point for us in the booth all night, the fact that that's something that could potentially loom over the drivers' heads when we get deeper into this race and really put them in a situation they've never been in before. Didn't end up happening tonight, but how did this new green-white checkered system approach your guys' real approach to a caution situation at the end of the race compared to what we have had in the past?
Well, I definitely don't think you're going to see guys stay out on extremely old tires hoping that they'll stack up the field and cause a caution ending the race. So I think that's going to alter the strategy a little bit. I mean, you saw here even 4 or 5 laps in the tires made a big difference. So if we do get a green-white checkered before the end of the season, which is inevitable, honestly, it's going to happen. I think you're going to see a lot of guys come down for tires if we've put at least 5-6 laps on them. If you don't, you're going to be a sitting duck, and with 3 attempts, you can only hold people off for so long before you either get wrecked or just get passed. So I was extremely happy not to see a green-white checker tonight. Like I said, the car wasn't really great on short runs, and with the gap that we had over 6th and 7th and really couldn't get to Luza there at the end, I was in a pretty good spot in 5th. So happy the race went green to the end there. Disappointed in a sense that we're 12 seconds off the leader, so Keegan definitely has something that we don't. The dead zone cars definitely have something interesting going on as well with the rear ends being so high. So not sure if that's noticeable in the broadcasts, but it's definitely noticeable to us. So we're taking note of that. We're taking note of everybody that's quicker than us at this point and studying the cars to see if we can pick up anything there. But it comes in cycles. We were quick last year. People caught up to us. Now it's our turn to catch up. So we've got a great group of guys around us, and I'm sure we'll get it turned around here before the playoffs start.
Thanks for joining us, Michael, and congratulations on another amazing top 5 in this series. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 8 Junior Motorsports Filter Time Chevrolet?
Yeah, just a big thanks to everybody at Filter Time again, Blake and Dale for coming on board and making the car look good here. Had some tough runs for them to start the partnership off, but we've turned it around the last couple weeks with 2 top 5s. So thank you to them, everybody at Junior Motorsports, for giving me the opportunity to race for them this year. Nick Ottinger and all the guys that are working with us this year to put good Chevrolets in the track. Thank you to them. And thank you to you guys for putting the spotlight on us and letting us race it out in front of the fans. And definitely looking forward to Kentucky in a couple weeks. We've got some work to do, like I said, but it's going to be a great race, and hopefully we can get up front once again.
There he is, 5th place runner Michael Conti. The last interview we have lined up for you. Evan, back over to you.
We say it every week, and of course, as always, big thanks to those top 5 drivers for giving us some time here post-race. Keegan Leahy, a race winner with Corey Vincent, Bobby Zelensky, Ryan Luza, and Michael Conti. Of course, take a look at the left-hand side of your screen. There is the updated points with 10 races of 14 completed on the regular season, and it is Ryan Luza 301.
I don't think those are up to date. I don't think those have gotten updated
those aren't
yet.
up to date.
Okay, I was gonna say. Well, I was expecting Loser to be on top, and we typically have the points there. But then that's right; it should be Loser. We're thinking on top, so we don't have it yet. Maybe we'll have it in a second, but I would expect. And the point was made with Leahy leading the most laps, getting the win, plus finishing 3 positions ahead, that it is going to be Keegan Leahy by 2 points is the difference coming at it tonight. Grand scheme of things, Randy, not a big difference. We don't give out any hardware. There's no extra cash incentive for being the regular season or winner. Top 8 is the objective, but don't tell these guys. They're going to keep trading wins, I'm sure, for the next few weeks with 4 more races to go.
Well, it's sort of like Ryan said in his interviews, the big thing that you want to have as you end the towards the tail end of this championship is you want to have the most wins. As there we go. Now we have the updated points on the left-hand side of your screen. Is Keegan Leahy 2 points ahead, Ryan Leaves second, and Blake Reynolds third. Is the number of wins is what's most important. You get a slight bonus in points every single time you win a race, and of course, if you've won the most race during the regular part of the championship, you go in with a nice little advantage. Ryan started off well ahead of everybody the first to 3 wins, and no one had really racked up multiple wins. Up until relatively recently, he's fallen off a little bit. He currently sits at 3. Keegan and Zach Novak, they sit at 2 apiece. Bobby Zelensky and Nick Ottinger, they each have 1. So really for Ryan Loser right now, he was at one point building towards a sizable advantage in that regard. At the moment, it's basically negligible with the way he's fallen off.
And you see the cut line there in the number 8 position. Nick Ottinger's got it, 278 points. First car outside looking in is going to be Jimmy Mullis with a 267. Tad bit of a bigger margin than what we came into this evening with, but it was just 1 point. So Mullis losing some ground after good nights for some drivers in front. Zach Novak started with a 50-point advantage at the beginning of this evening, and his advantage as well is one that is closed in a tad bit, just at, I think that is about 32 points. So it's all relative, Tim. 4 races still to go, but a great action tonight. Green flag pretty much the whole way as we get set to head over to the right-hand side of our schedule for the first time this season. Kentucky due up in 2 weeks' time, and then we'll go Pocono, Michigan, Bristol, and then it gets fun. You'll want to be there at the end of August.
Oh, it gets fun when we hit August 20th at Bristol. You look at Michigan, completely different animal than Bristol. Pocono, wide open spaces there as well, and then Kentucky with the 1.5 mile configuration. It's a very intriguing schedule that we have upcoming heading towards the playoffs. But you mentioned the points, too, when you look at the opposite side in that top 20. I know we don't have it on the graphic, but Phil Diaz currently occupies that 20th place position. Chris Shearber not here this evening, as Ryan Luza had mentioned, or Keegan Leahy had mentioned. He falls outside the top 20. Ray Alfala is still outside the top 20 as well, but only 8 points to the opposite side. So yes, that top 8 is going to be good. That battle for the top 20 going to go on until the end of the season, until we hit that race at Homestead. But another thing to keep an eye on as we work forward into this season. It's going to be a great little stretch towards the end of the year, and we'll see what happens with those top 2. As Ryan Luza mentioned, there's no real money value or anything else to winning that regular season, but you always like that extra feather in your cap. But if you can get those wins in the critical 4 races towards the playoffs, you get more points, and eventually you get more playoff points to set yourself up for those 4 races into the playoffs.
It's definitely been a season to remember, but it is only going to get more exciting from here. But with all of that being said, round number 10 falls into our rear view mirror. I want to thank all of the people who make these Tuesday night broadcasts possible, for our director Hugo Luis, for Alex Horn, for the camera angles, or broadcast graphics package provided by Andy Werner and Simon Grossman, for your broadcast team tonight, for Tim Terry, Randy Jonathan, and myself, Evan Pisoko. Want to thank you for tuning in, reminding you that while we're away, you can keep up to date with all things iRacing by going to eNASCAR.com as we get set to return in 2 weeks' time, July the 9th. That race from the Kentucky Speedway, and the rest of them for 2019. For the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceBot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Chicagoland, where Keegan Leahy is your race winner.